Kia ora and welcome to video 3, where I tackle the issue of AI writing detectors. In the second video, I alluded to AI detectors being unreliable and shouldn't be taken as conclusive proof that the student has submitted AI written text. In this video, I'll explore how AI writer detectors work and what you need to consider when reviewing students' work. AI detectors function very differently from large language models like ChatGPT. As discussed in video 1, large language models generate text through prediction and probabilities, trying to predict the next word in a sequence. In contrast, AI detectors approach us from the other end. They specifically trained on text that is created by AI and humans to detect the difference between the two. So, this is the distinction that explains why submitting students' assessments to ChatGPT won't correctly flag AI generated content. So, instead of analyzing the text for signs of AI authorship, it's just generating an answer that they think is most likely. So, AI writing detectors look for patterns and characteristics of text and determine the likelihood of it being AI generated. So they generally evaluate based on two criteria: perplexity and burstiness. So perplexity is evaluated through the predictability of text. AI generated text needs to be or is considered to be coherent, smoothly written, and predictable. So, on the other hand, human writing is generally more complex. We tend to use a richer variety of words and make complex language choices. Human writing also has errors. We have typos and grammatical issues. Therefore, text that flows well and makes logical sense and is correct is flagged as AI writing. Burstiness, on the other hand, refers to the variability of sentence structure. So while perplexity looks at the likelihood of individuals belonging together in a sequence, burstiness, on the other hand, looks at the overall structure of the sentence. So text that shows little variation in length and structure would be considered as AI generated. So AI models, due to the predictive nature, often produce text that is uniform around sentence length and conventional structures. And this is what would be detected and identified as being AI generated. Therefore, given that AI generators are relying on these very narrow set of criteria, it's not surprising that they're prone to false positives. So, false positives occur when writing is incorrectly identified as AI written when it's not. So even though tools like Turnitin and other detectors claim to have a very low threshold for flagging content incorrectly, there is still considerable debate about their accuracy and reliability in detecting reliably AI work. So, for those interested in exploring this issue further, you can have a look at the QR code that talks about a specific research project article that looked at this issue. So, addressing the problem of false positives reveals additional concerns associated with the use of AI detecting tools. So, as AI detectors tend to flag text based on patterns and structures and complexity and word choices, they have a tendency to flag non native English work as AI written. Therefore, this highlights significant ethical issues around the relying on these tools, as they can perpetuate further biases and unfair treatment of this population group. So, however, there are also other issues beyond false positives with these tools. The first being that these tools tend to be teacher centric. Unlike general plagiarism detectors, which students can use to improve their work and learn about plagiarism, AI detectors, such as those included in Turnitin, tend to be non student facing. Therefore, they lack the transparency of the evidence used to determine cheating. This creates a significant power imbalance between students and educators when we start to use this to accuse students of cheating. In addition to that, The use of AI detectors tend to narrow our view that the use of AI writers is actually cheating, something that needs to be flagged and therefore penalised. Rather, a student could have developed the content themselves and then used an AI generator to smooth or improve the writing. Rather, as I explored in video one, and which we'll discuss further in the series, we need to move away from such black and white views of AI writing, and therefore need to consider the implications of academic misconduct when using AI tools away from this notion of its use as cheating. So, lastly, the system themselves are not transparent. It's unclear how students' data is used to develop these training models. We need to question if it's actually ethical for us to use these tools when we don't know how the data is being managed by these systems. So, despite some institutions choosing not to employ AI detectors and disabling, in fact, these features in these platforms, you may find value in utilizing the tools, especially to explore or confirm suspicion. So, Turnitin offers some great guidelines around how to use AI, these tools effectively. However, it's crucial to recognize that the scores generated by these detectors do not constitute definitive proof of AI and the involvement of AI writers. They should rather be used as indicators, suggesting the likelihood of AI use. And through this, you need to think about how do we engage with this information in the scores. So there's a few things to think about. So they, as I said, they don't provide definitive proof. So it's rather be used as a starting point to discuss the work with students, but also using this as opportunity to reinforce why you're looking for AI writing and what's the implications of this in terms of their assessments. Um, Also, unlike similarity scores and plagiarism detectors, there's no ideal or target score you're aiming for. Rather, you should be using this to consider the more holistically what is being flagged and how much of it, and what is the quality of the work inside that. You need to communicate openly with the students about how your intentions to use AI detectors, especially bearing in mind that they don't actually get to access this information themselves. We need to think about how we're communicating the implications or how we're also communicating effective use and appropriate use of AI. So AI writing can be picked up in other ways, not just using an AI writing detector. Some suggestions are provided in that link article. However, these include looking for differences between what a student has submitted against your documented knowledge about their work, but also issues around not following assessment criteria, where the writing misses the point, and the issues around references, for example. All of these indicate not necessarily just AI writing, but quality of work. So, however, in all these cases, they're not actually about the AI writing itself, but actually the quality of the work that's been submitted. So this is therefore brings us back to video one, where I discussed the point that you cannot AI proof your take-home assessments. So when it becomes impossible to prove that AI is being used, you need to pivot away from proof and towards the idea of identifying where the students are providing their own work, or if they're actually providing someone else's work, which is the AI systems, and how they're developing their work. So it's no longer about whether that you're able to identify AI writing, but rather whether one, the student has indicated that they've used it, I acknowledge the use, and two, where they've used it appropriately. In the next video, I'll talk more about the implications of academic integrity in assessment that talk about how do we use this appropriately and the issues of acknowledgement as well. As always, if you've got any questions or further comments, please get in touch.